Have you ever felt like someone close to you, maybe a friend, partner, or even family member, is slowly draining the life out of you? Sometimes the most harmful people don't look dangerous at all. They smile, they charm, breathe. But underneath that surface lies manipulation, control, and emotional destruction. These individuals aren't demons in the religious sense, but their impact can be just as devastating. They chip away at your confidence, isolate you from support, and twist your sense of reality. And the scariest part? Most people never realize what's happening until it's too late. In this video, I'm going to walk you through 5 clear signs that someone in your life might be one of these emotional predators. The signs are subtle at first, but once you know what to look for, you'll never see them the same way again. Trust me, recognizing these patterns early could save you years of pain. So watch until the very end. And if time is tight, speed up the video instead of skipping. What you learn in the next few minutes might be exactly what you need to break free. Sign number 1, energy vampirism. Let's start with something I think a lot of us go through, but rarely talk about. It's when someone in your life constantly drains your energy, but you can't quite explain why. You know that friend who calls out of the blue just to vent, complain, and dump everything on you? And when the call ends, they seem fine, but you feel like you've been emotionally hit by a freight train? That's not just a bad conversation. That's emotional vampirism. I'm not talking about some fantasy monster. I mean someone who uses you as their personal dumping ground and walks away lighter, while you carry the weight. They make everything about them. You could be grieving the loss of a pet, and they'll spin it into a story about how their breakup was worse. They interrupt, dominate the conversation, and leave you foggy and heavy. They don't create energy, they take yours. A lot of us excuse this behavior. They're just stressed when we're none, we say. Or worse, we start to feel guilty for feeling tired. But let's be honest, healthy relationships give and take. They don't drain. Try this simple test. Before and after you spend time with them, ask yourself, do I feel better or worse? If the answer is usually worse, that's not connection. That's consumption. The Stoics, guys like Epictetus, taught us to guard our inner life the way we'd guard our home. If someone walked in and dumped garbage on your floor, you'd kick them out. So why let someone do that to your mind? You have the right to protect your peace. You don't owe constant availability. You're not a dumping station for someone else's chaos. Set limits. Say no. Step back when needed. I had a friend, let's call her Megan, who made every conversation about her. I'd try to share something, and somehow we'd be back on her drama within seconds. At first, I thought I was being a good friend, but over time I felt like a therapist she never paid and never thanked. One day, I didn't answer the phone. I waited. I checked in with myself, and guess what? She didn't follow up. She just moved on to someone else. That's when it hit me. I wasn't a friend. I was a fuel source. If someone regularly leaves you feeling depleted, that's not your friend. It's your warning sign. The Stoics didn't say we should isolate ourselves, but they were clear about one thing. Protect your time, protect your thoughts, protect your energy. Because you can't think clearly, can't live freely when someone else is draining you dry. Recognize it, name it, and reclaim your space. Sign number 2, isolation. Now let's move into something even darker. The quiet, calculated way some people isolate you from everyone else who truly cares. At first, it doesn't even feel like control. It feels like love, like closeness. Like finally someone sees you, but little by little the world around you starts shrinking. I knew someone, let's call her Bella. She had a vibrant social life, a supportive family, and friends who adored her. Then she met someone new. Within 6 months, she wasn't speaking to anyone else. And when I finally saw her again, She was a shell of the person she used to be, convinced that everyone but this one person had abandoned her. But the truth? That person had isolated her completely. This kind of control doesn't come with red flags. It starts with whispers. You notice how your sister acts weird when you talk? Or your friends only reach out when they need something. I'm the only one who truly sees you. And you start to believe it. Why? Because it comes wrapped in care. But the next phase is even worse. Suddenly, you're made to choose. Your mom's birthday or their last-minute emergency? Dinner with friends or just one night in with them? And if you choose someone else, they guilt you. After everything I do for you, you'd rather be with them? Soon it feels easier to just say no to everyone but them. You stop reaching out. You avoid gatherings. You start making excuses. And before you know it, they're all you have left. Stoicism reminds us that we are part of a larger human community. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "What brings no benefit to the hive brings no benefit to the bee." And anyone who tries to cut you off from the people who lift you up isn't loving you. They're controlling you. Take a moment to reflect. Since this person entered your life, has your circle gotten smaller? Have you made excuses not to see others? Does the idea of bringing them around your friends or family make you anxious? These are not small signs. They are warning flares. I once dated someone who slowly, masterfully chipped away at my support system. They didn't forbid anything outright. They just raised eyebrows, planted doubts. Every decision I made that didn't center them became an act of betrayal. Eventually, I found myself alone, believing it was my choice. But here's the truth. Isolation is not connection. Real love doesn't erase your world. It adds to it. If someone makes you feel like they're all you have, it's not because they love you more than anyone else. It's because they want control. And that's not love. That's strategy. Sign number 3, reality distortion. Now we dive into something even more disturbing. Something that doesn't just affect how you feel, but how you think. This one is psychological warfare. It's when someone bends your sense of reality until you don't even trust your own memories. Have you ever remembered a conversation word for word, only to have the other person look you dead in the eye and say, "That never happened"? Not with confusion, but confidence. Suddenly you're questioning yourself. Did I imagine it? Am I overreacting? That's not forgetfulness. That's manipulation. This is called gaslighting, and it's one of the most powerful tools in a demon's playbook. These people will rewrite history in real time, and they're so convincing that you start to second-guess your own truth. They'll say, "I never said that," even when you remember the tone, the moment, the exact words. They'll promise something, and then deny it ever happened. They'll move your things, then swear you misplaced them. And here's the cruel part. When you bring something up calmly, they flip the script. Before you know it, you're the one apologizing. You walked in hurt and walked out confused, guilty, and ashamed. It's like emotional judo. They use your momentum against you. Most of us don't know this is happening. We assume the fault is ours. We chalk it up to being too emotional or too forgetful. But let me ask you, how often have you walked away from a conversation with this person feeling foggy? Like the facts just slipped through your fingers? Healthy relationships bring clarity, not confusion. Stoicism tells us to know ourselves clearly. As Epictetus said, first say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do. To fight reality distortion, try this. Keep a private journal. Write down key conversations and promises as they happen. Why? Because it creates a record that no one can rewrite. When someone tries to twist your past, you'll have the truth in your own handwriting. I once knew someone who was a master at this. He could twist any situation until I doubted my own eyes. He'd insult me, then say it was a joke. He'd deny saying things, then accuse me of being dramatic. It got to the point where I stopped trusting my gut. So I started writing things down, small details, dates, quotes. And when he tried to gaslight me again, I pulled out my notes. You should have seen his face. If you constantly feel like you're losing your grip on what's real, you're not crazy. You're being manipulated. Truth doesn't need to hide in confusion. So remember this. Anyone who attacks your clarity is afraid of what you'll see when you finally look. And that's the third sign someone in your life might be a real demon. They don't just lie to you. They try to make you lie to yourself. Sign number 4, Jekyll and Hyde Personality. Next, let's talk about one of the most confusing and destabilizing behaviors you can experience. The Jekyll and Hyde switch. One moment they're charming, generous, magnetic. The next they're cold, cutting, and cruel. This isn't just moodiness or a bad day. It's a calculated shift in personality. A pattern designed to keep you guessing. In public, they're a dream. They light up the room. Friends and strangers alike sing their praises. People tell you how lucky you are to have them. But behind closed doors, the mask slips. They become a different person entirely. Someone who mocks you, belittles you, punishes you emotionally for reasons you can't even pinpoint. You never know what version of them you'll get. Did you say something wrong? Was your tone off? Or was it just Tuesday? This unpredictability keeps you in a constant state of high alert. You walk on eggshells. You censor your words. You shrink yourself to avoid triggering the switch. Over time, you might start blaming yourself. If I just stay calm, if I do everything right, but it's not about you being perfect. It's about them staying in control. One of their favorite tactics is love bombing, showering you with gifts, affection, and praise. It feels intoxicating. You feel special, chosen, then just as quickly it's gone. The warmth turns to ice. The gifts at worst stop. The compliments become contempt. And you're left chasing the version of them you saw in the beginning. The Stoics believed in steady character, consistency. As Marcus Aurelius said, the mind that is anxious about future events is miserable. If someone's love feels like a gamble, that's not love. It's a trap. Track the pattern. Note what leads up to the highs and what follows the lows. When you see it written out, the cycle becomes obvious. I once knew someone exactly like this. They made me feel like I was on top of the world until I wasn't. One night they were dancing with me under the stars. The next they were shutting me out in silence, blaming me for some invisible slight. I started living for the highs. I tolerated the lows. I convinced myself that the good times were worth it, but they weren't. Unpredictability isn't romance. It's manipulation. No healthy relationship leaves you terrified of the next version of someone. No one who loves you should turn praise into punishment. And no amount of occasional kindness makes up for regular cruelty. That's the fourth sign. When someone keeps switching between adoring and destroying you, they're not showing complexity, they're showing control. And the longer you stay in their cycle, the harder it is to remember what peace ever felt like. Sign number 5, soul theft. Finally, we've reached the most chilling sign of all. This one cuts deep, not just into your energy or your mind, but into your very identity. It's called soul theft. And no, not in a supernatural sense, but in the way someone slowly strips you of who you are until you barely recognize yourself. Think back to who you were before this person came into your life. What made you laugh? What were you passionate about? What dreams kept you going? Now ask yourself, how much of that still remains? Soul-stealing demons don't barge in and tear you down. They erode you piece by piece, with subtle insults, with backhanded compliments, with fake concern disguised as just being honest. They don't say your dreams are stupid. They say, I just don't want you to get hurt if it doesn't work out. They don't say you're not good enough. They say, maybe try aiming a bit lower, just to be safe. Surishtrani, little by little, your confidence crumbles. Your goals fade. Your voice gets quieter. You start internalizing their doubts. You think, maybe they're right. You stop dressing the way you love. You stop pursuing what excites you. You silence the parts of yourself they don't like. And soon you're not living, you're performing. Worse, they might steal credit for your ideas, your success, your growth. They reframe your wins as their influence. You wouldn't have pulled that off without me. Hurry, they break you down and then brand themselves your savior. The Stoics taught us that true power lies in knowing who we are and acting from that truth. Seneca said, no man was ever wise by chance. To reclaim your sense of self, start with awareness. Keep a journal. Document your wins. Write down the compliments you used to believe about yourself. Create proof that you existed before their voice got louder than your own. I once loved someone who made me feel like I needed their approval to breathe. They'd say things like, yeah, that's not really your thing, or people laugh at you when you do that. And so I stopped. I stopped wearing colors. I stopped dancing. I stopped laughing too loudly. But one night I heard an old recording of myself, laughing freely, and it broke me. I realized that person still lived inside me. She was just buried. If someone in your life makes you feel like you have to shrink to be loved, they're not loving you. They're consuming you. And the scariest part, you don't even notice it happening until one day you wake up and realize you've disappeared. But here's the truth. The real you isn't gone, just hidden. And now that you see what's happening, you can begin the process of reclaiming every piece they tried to steal, because your soul was never theirs to keep. To wrap things up, these signs aren't just red flags, they're reminders. If you recognized even one, it means you've already begun to see clearly. And clarity is power. The Stoics believe that awareness is the first step to freedom. As Epictetus said, only the educated are free. So don't see this as a breakdown. See it as a turning point. You're not unraveling. You're waking up. You're beginning the journey back to yourself. And with every step forward, you reclaim what was never theirs to take: your peace, your strength, and your soul. Keep going. The road ahead is yours to walk freely and fully.